On dot 54 of Eruvin, we get this quote that had the first tablets that Moses broke not been destroyed, the Torah would never have been forgotten from Israel. Now, the Gemara doesn't really explain why, but I heard this great explanation a number of years ago that put it into context. So why would the Torah never been forgotten if the first tablets hadn't been destroyed? Well, it was when Moses was destroying the first tablets. Why? It's because of the golden calf. And the golden calf, the punishment for the golden calf was all of this years of exile, was that the people would not just go into Israel and build the temple and have this eternal kingdom. The golden calf led to exile. And because we went into exile, not everything in the Torah could be written down. So we have the written Torah and the oral Torah. So why couldn't it be written down? Well, we see what happens when we wrote down the written Torah. We see that the Torah became the basis not just for Judaism, but Christianity also based itself off the biblical story, and Islam also based itself off the biblical story. Other religions took the biblical story and they said, no, that's our story, and they use that as part of their whole mythology as well. So had everything been written down, then everything would have been taken. But as we saw, the things that remained oral, the Talmud, really didn't become part of the liturgy of Christianity, Islam, or any other religions. That really remained Jewish. And that's because it was oral in nature. But because it was oral in nature, it was also forgotten over time. It wasn't something that was written down. In fact, by the time we wrote it down, we, out of a state of emergency, out of a sense of, if we don't write this down now, we might lose it, there had already been a lot of confusion about what this had said. So there's a concept that maybe the first set of tablets had contained all the written and the oral Torah on it. That it was all one, and therefore, because it was all together, that it would never be forgotten. When the second tablets were carved out by Moses, already at that point, there's a decree that we were going to have to go into exile. And therefore, the Torah was divided between the written, which was not going to be forgotten, and the oral, which had the chance to be forgotten. But there's also this other idea that says, had we had that first set of tablets, then really we would have been just, the readers of the text. We could have gone and looked at the text whenever we needed to understand something. But there's actually a sense of elevation that we got when the tablets were destroyed. Why? Because now we needed to be basically the living Torahs ourselves. We needed to be the vessel for passing Torah from one generation to the next, We needed to learn it. We needed to know it. We needed to memorize it. We needed to be able to pass it on and teach it. And so the first set had the advantage of that it would never be forgotten, that it would have been really eternal, all of the teachings. The second set had the advantage that it required more from us and therefore led us to rise to greater heights.